Yeah, so let's pretend that it's not weird that I'm just randomly making a video where I talk for no reason. But, I was sitting in my bedroom this morning and I was thinking, boy, howdy, there sure aren't enough white 21-year-olds making top 20 albums of the year videos. So here I am, gonna fill in that demographic silence. And yeah, I'm only gonna talk about each one of these for like 20 seconds, so don't get too excited about any sort of meaningful content or anything like that. But yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. Top 20 albums of 2017. Let's go. At number 20, we have Animal Collective with Meeting of the Waters. I know this is technically an EP, but I haven't really listened to enough EPs this year to warrant excluding this from my list, so I put it on here. If I had to describe this EP, I would say it's kind of like an abstract journey through a forest while on acid. Not that I know what that's like, but yeah, I enjoyed the more natural direction the group takes on this album. It's very organic. It has that kind of background ambience thing going on, similar to Campfire songs. And I think Man of Oil is one of the best Animal Collective songs in years. Good stuff, folks. Next, we got number 19, which is Sufjan Stevens, Nico Muhly, Bryce Dessner, and James McAllister with Planetarium. An album true to its name. This thing is just very breathtaking, like a kaleidoscope of stars and asteroids and planets and galaxies, and the production's very lush, and it's coupled with Sufjan's typical very soft vocal delivery, and he's got these mythological yet also somehow personal lyrics thing that Sufjan is somehow able to do, and it just makes everything feel very, very ethereal, very otherworldly, and just very beautiful. Good stuff. Planetarium, good album. Number 18, gonna give it to Algiers with The Underside of Power. I was a big fan of Algiers' first album, and I think this one keeps the streak going. It's very dark, it's very visceral. Franklin James Fisher's vocal delivery is just frighteningly powerful, and the music manages to be both incredibly urgent and impassioned while still maintaining that kind of brooding, murky veneer. It's like a goth gospel pop punk, but in the best imaginable way. If that makes sense, it doesn't. But at number 17, we have "Hang" by Foxygen. And this album is like Randy Newman meets glam rock meets, I guess, show tunes. I don't know. I just love how vibrant and colorful it is. I love the over-the-top vocal performances, the very theatrical instrumental palette, and I think the breakdown in America still gets to me. Still one of my favorite songs of the year. Did I say 20 seconds per album? I meant like 5. So next, at number 16, we got Brockhampton, the Saturation Trilogy. I have the Saturation 2 album artwork up there because it's my favorite, but this spot is definitely for all 3 of them. Just through and through, really solid collection of songs. You can tell the group has a wonderful chemistry, and they're able to use it not only to make a cohesive album, but one that is still able to touch on a wide spectrum of lyrical content and sonic ideas. They got bangers, they got ballads, they got it all. Good stuff. So yeah, number 15 album of the year, we got Tyler, the Creator, with Flower Boy. I pretty much have come to the same consensus as everyone else with this album. Though I've personally always liked Tyler's music in general. I guess not so much Cherry Bomb, but this album is definitely Tyler's most introspective and mature album to date. Sonically it's very lush and warm. The tracks are cohesive, and the features give the album a wide scope of sounds and ideas. The lyrics are really good too. They're like these bittersweet, I guess, meditations on love and longing in a way that's really nice to see from Tyler, the Creator. Number 14, we got The Mountain Goats with Goths. This album is dark, it's somber, it's anxious, it's goth. John Darnielle gives another incredibly vivid look into a specific subculture on this album. Like their last album, Beat the Champ, which kind of did this with professional wrestling and did it excellently. This album works kind of in the same way, except with kind of the 80s goth subculture. But, despite having such a specific idea in mind, the band manages to keep the album both cinematic and lively, as well as emotional and touching. And there's kind of this, the whole narrative of the album here is that this is the first Mountain Goats album with no guitars, which, it is, and it works really well, and it kind of proves that John's songwriting is effective over whatever sonic palette that they might want to utilize. So next, at number 13, we have Queens of the Stone Age with their album Villains. And this album, to me, continues Queens of the Stone Age's streak of just being the most consistently good, active, alternative rock band. This album, perhaps doesn't match the same scope and depth as its predecessor, but still filled with wonderfully written tracks, and I actually greatly appreciate the more punchy kind of immediate direction this album takes. I mean, Josh Homme has always written pop songs disguised as rock songs. That's kind of their whole shtick, but I'm kind of glad to see them embrace it a bit more on this album. It's just really, really solid through and through, basically. So next, at number 12, I'm going to give it to Perfume Genius with No Shape. And yeah, this album is breathtaking, lush, and extravagant in a way that could really only be pulled off by Perfume Genius. The ambience is crisp, it's gorgeous, Mike's lyrics are, as tear-jerking and romantic as ever, and he just kind of, I think, proves again that he's one of the most creative, forward-thinking pop artists around, no question about it. Good stuff. Number 11, we got Remo Drive with Greatest Hits, and, of course have to rep Minnesota, but, regardless of where Remo Drive are from, Greatest Hits is one of the funnest, catchiest, punchiest collection of pop punk and indie rock songs I've heard in a while. Vocal delivery is great, the arrangements are unique, and I appreciate the clever, kind of self-deprecating, often tongue-in-cheek lyrics throughout, and, I'm excited to see what these boys have to offer. So yeah, top 10, here we go. Number 10, we're doing it. Number 10, I'm giving it to King Cruel with The Ooze, and this album is just a grimy, nocturnal, ominous, and just a surreal, listening experience. Archie Marshall's deep, brooding vocals combine wonderfully with kind of all of the odd, dark genre concoctions going on. You got trip-hop, jazz, post-punk, art rock. It's just one of the most uniquely, I guess, engaging albums I've heard this year. Just definitely enough to make it at number 10. So going on from here, we have number 9, Feist, with her album Pleasure, and this is one of those albums that just goes to show that good songwriting really goes a long way. From a sonic perspective, Pleasure is kind of a nice indie rock album with tinges of lo-fi and folk elements, but the songs are just so dynamic and so well crafted, and the lyrics are emotional and raw that the album just demands your attention from start to finish. Great album. And at number 8, giving it to Mac DeMarco with his album This Old Dog. This album to me is just Mac DeMarco doing what Mac DeMarco does best. It's certainly not new territory for him, but I think the execution and the songwriting here is the best it's ever been. I love the soft, warm, jangle pop ambience kind of going on, Mac's signature smooth vocals, and especially the emotional direction in the lyrics that Mac is continuing towards. I really appreciate. Like I said, there's not a huge reinvention of sound on here, but I think that's okay. This Old Dog, from a songwriting perspective at least, is Mac DeMarco's best album, regardless. You heard it here first. Anyway, at number 7, I'm giving it to Kendrick Lamar with his new super underground album, Damn. And yeah, this man is just on an ungodly streak of albums right now. Obviously he's particularly, I guess, garnered acclaim from his previous 2, but that said, I still think Damn contains some of his, the best songs he's ever written. Perhaps not quite up to the standard of cohesion that we're typically accustomed to, I guess, but the atmosphere here is still wonderfully dark, very introspective, and Kendrick actually does a great job of pulling in influence from a wide range of areas, and in addition to that, the lyrics are still an absolute gold standard for hip-hop, and honestly just for music, in general. He just brings an acute understanding of political and social issues, and he he articulates them in a really beautiful and poetic way, and he's just the man. There's no two ways about it. So here at number 6, I got leagues of haters trying to knock down my door, preventing me from putting this album at this spot on the list. But of course I'm talking about Father John Misty with Pure Comedy. And I would just like to say that despite all of the negative reception regarding, I guess how pretentious this album is, it's easy to forget that the commentary that Father John Misty gives on Pure Comedy isn't exactly wrong. And in addition to that, I personally think that the acoustic arrangements and the general balladry present throughout the album are incredibly beautiful. Josh Tillman shows again that he's a very clever lyricist, and many of the songs here are actually very emotional and very touching, very human. The world is this kind of cold, alienating place, and everything might be meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy it here. It's actually a miracle that we're even here at all. So, Father John Misty, keep doing it, brother. All right. So here we are, top five albums of 2017. At number 5, I'm giving it to Sandy Alex G with his album Rocket, and this album is actually kind of hard to articulate why I like it so much. It's kind of a strange amalgamation of indie folk and country and lo-fi and rock music, and at a glance it may seem a bit too eclectic, but everything just works together so well, and the lyrics are these kind of melancholy tinged reflections on a wide variety of subjects pertaining to like love and longing and change and personal growth. And I don't know, I was vaguely a fan of Alex G before this, but this is the first album where I really see him coming into his own as a songwriter and as a lyricist, and I guess just as an artist in general. So at number 4 we have Japanese Breakfast with Soft Sounds from Another Planet, and yeah, this album is just an exercise in creating the perfect atmosphere for an album. It's lush, it's warm. Have I said those adjectives enough in this video? Probably not, but it's just hard to come by a dream pop album with such passionate lyrics and performances, and Michelle Zauner's vocals on this album just cut through the hazy, kind of engrossing ambience like a knife, and the lyrics are just acutely heartbreaking while still being artful and engaging, and I wasn't quite on the Japanese Breakfast hype train before this. I mean, I liked Psychopomp, but this album, whew, not getting off that train anytime soon, everybody. So yeah, Japanese Breakfast, Soft Sounds from Another Planet. At number 3, I'm giving it to my boys Fleet Foxes with their new album Crack Up, and going in, this is probably one of my most anticipated releases, like, ever of all time. Fleet Foxes are one of my favorite bands. Helplessness Blues, one of my favorite albums ever, and despite my unreasonably high expectations, Crack Up ended up being fantastic. It's a lot more refined, a lot more progressive than anything we've heard from Fleet Foxes in the past. The arrangements are beautifully complex, the songwriting is strong and poignant, and of course Robin's vocal delivery and the harmonies on this album are just on another level. This album pays really good attention to pacing, it flows well, and I guess Robin's meditations on change and uncertainty and cognitive dissonance make up some of his most insightful work yet. I think it's a wonderful album. At number 2, we have Richard Dawson with his album Peasant, and I can say without hyperbole that this is one of the most creative folk albums I've probably ever heard. The arrangements managed to be both incredibly complex and avant-garde, while simultaneously having some of the catchiest hooks you'll ever hear. Richard Dawson gives incredibly impassioned performances to already fantastically written songs, and the album is not only cohesively tied together in the music, but also with the folktale-like stories of humor and sadness and fear and joy in the lyrics, and it all just remarkably captures the full range of the emotional spectrum, and I'm very, very excited to dig further into this guy's back catalog and see what he's got going on. And at number 1, my favorite album of the year, we have Mount Eerie with A Crow Looked at Me. I actually just wrote a massive review for this album for indie heads that will articulate my thoughts leagues better than I can or will right here and now. I can link it in the description if you'd like to give that a read, but essentially A Crow Looked at Me is the most genuine, honest album about death that I've probably ever heard. Not probably, definitely ever heard. Phil Elverum is a special, beautiful human being, and I hope he's doing well. There's not really gonna say much more about that. So that's my video. Don't know why I made it. Don't know if I'll ever make one ever again. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Happy holidays. Goodbye.